Okay, so what we want to do now is when we hold shift, we want to be able to decrease our stamina. So jump back into your first person controller here, and what we want to do is, I'm going to give myself a little bit of room, but we want to add a custom event. What's neat about custom events is they allow you to access other blueprint nodes. So for example, like we're going to be adjusting our sprint node soon. So this event, I'm just going to rename it drain or sprint drain because it's going to be used to drain the value of our sprint. So let's do that. Then remember we made a couple of variables here to adjust. So what we need is player stamina. Actually, we can just drag it off from the side here. Player stamina. We're going to set that. So let's connect that to here. And then what we want to do is we need a branch that's going to give us our true or false, whether or not we are holding shift down to drain stamina or we are not. So here's this. So let's grab our player stamina from here. We're going to get that, and then our draining. Here's player stamina, and then we need our sprint cost. So this is what's going to decrease. What I want to do here is I'm going to get a float minus float, and from player stamina, we're going to subtract the sprint cost. Now we also need to check whether or not, let's move this up a little bit more. We need to check whether or not our we are less than or equal to, or I'm sorry, greater than or equal to the current stamina so that we can keep decreasing. So what I'm going to do is just type in float again and then just grab the greater than or equal to here. And I'm going to do the same setup, player stamina up here and then sprint cost down here. Now notice that we have a condition node here. It returns true or false, right? So we're going to connect that to our branch here. Now, let's kind of move this up just a little bit. What I'm looking for here is the max value, so max float, that our player stamina can reach. And then, so it's going to give us the highest level. Like if it's 0.1 or whatever, it'll jump up to the highest float. So we're going to connect that here to player stamina. I guess we can kind of leave it out like this. I'm just trying to make it a little bit clearer to see. Now, I don't know if you remember, our player character has a, oops, sorry for hitting the mic. We need our player character, or character movement here in order to get that walk speed, because we're going to be tweaking that based on value. So if we drag our character movement here, you can see we've got our node here. This is going to has all of our character movement attributes. I'm going to drag this out and I'm going to get max walk speed. So get max walk speed. Oops, sorry, I want to set it. Because we're going to be tweaking this. So max walk speed. I want to set max walk speed like this. And let's do, we need a node that's going to clear this out after. So we need a timer that if we release the shift for a certain period of time, it'll slowly bring the stamina back. And then, so we need a clear and a set timer. So we're going to go to false. So false initially indicates that we don't have any more stamina left. So we're going to set our max walk speed back to 600, which was the initial value. And then what we need to do is clear our timer back to 0. So I'm going to go clear timer. Oh, you know, it's not a, we're not looking for a value, we're looking for an execution. We're executing something, so that's clear timer, and that's a function. Now the function name, so you can see here's the object, and then here's the function name. The function is this guy, sprint drain, so I'm going to highlight that and just copy this. I'm going to paste it under function name here. So that's the function that's going to be called again. It's going to loop back once that's done. And the last thing we need to do is grab our isSprinting variable and set it. We're going to leave it unchecked here because what that means is if the case is where we're walking at this point, we are no longer sprinting. All right. Let's go ahead and highlight all this and then hit C as in cat, and then we're just going to name this drain sprint. All right. That looks pretty good. I'm going to save and compile this. And then I'm going to look for my movement input and my sprint drain here. And that's this guy right here. So input action sprint. What I'm going to do is, because we're going to be extending this guy out a little bit, let's move him over here and give ourselves some room up top here. All right, so I'm going to break this. I'm going to move this character movement guy down here. Down here. And what I want to do is I'm actually going to run a branch. And what we're going to say, move this way out here, connect true to here. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our sprint cost and our player stamina here. Oops, didn't get that one. And we're going to do another check between these two. And we're going to say, we're going to do that same float check. So if it's greater than or equal to, and then it's going to give us a condition that we can plug into our branch here. So again, we're checking, is player stamina greater than or equal to sprint cost? And if that's the case, we'll get a condition, right? We'll get a true or false condition, and then that's going to trigger which branch in the true and false state will move here. If it's true, we're going to set our walk speed to 2200. That means player stamina is greater than sprint cost. If it is not, we've got to do something creative and start decreasing or looping through that. So let's go ahead and say that if we are sprinting, we want to go ahead and say, grab our is sprinting variable from here and turn that on, because that means we are sprinting. So we'll set that value, check that on, and that means we are currently sprinting if we are if it reaches 2200, right? Down here, I'm going to grab that clear timer, by function, because if we are currently moving at 600 speed, that means that that we have to clear a timer and let it reset so that we can start incrementing our stamina again so we can keep running. And I'm going to paste in, see how it says sprint drain? That's the function that we're going to call. Remember, up here is our how we're setting up our actual sprint, our decrease, because we're subtracting here. We're not doing any subtraction here. We're just doing testing, because this is what's actually moving our character. Remember, we're input action sprint. And this looks pretty good. I just need to do another set timer here. We need that function. We're looking to call drain sprint, right? Sprint drain. We want to loop through until it is completely drained. And then the time we want to take as it's looping through is 0.5. Let's see. I need another. Oh, I need to do another is sprinting. Oh, I'll just grab it from over here. And I need to set that. I'm going to set that here. All right, let's compile, save, and see if we get any errors or if it's working. So I'm going to move forward. And I'm holding shift. There we go. So it is sprinting. And if you want it to, now if I release, it should grow. Come on, stamina. Oh, maybe I have to go all the way to 0 on my sprint. Oh yeah, it's, you know what, it is moving up. I can see it. It's just going very, very slowly. Let's hit escape here. Let's go back into our blueprint. Maybe tweak it a little bit. Oh, let's close this guy out. We don't need him. And we don't need you. Let me kind of tweak through this a little bit. You know what I think I'm going to do is I might just make a whole new section just for recharging stamina rate, because initially the way I was doing was I was going to have it do it by time, but I think I might just create a separate variable and that'll let it increment, and that would actually be a little bit cooler and it'll give you a little more experience with blueprints.